What is up, YouTube? I'm here with Alex Carmenaty for our Week 11 NFL predictions. It looks like a great week of football. Some huge games with some big playoff implications. We're at that stage of the season where a lot of these teams need to win to try to help themselves with the playoffs in these, final couple weeks. So it's going to be an exciting week. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into the video. Okay, so Alex, the first game I want to get into is Thursday Night Football, a good divisional matchup. Two teams coming off rough losses last week. We got Bengals, Ravens. What do you got on this one?
Well, first off, Jason, you can't see me, and I think the audience might be better off with that this week. Regardless, I think that we finally have a good Thursday night football game because the rest of them this whole year, most of them at least, have just been horrific. And when you go from Panthers Bears last week, which was ridiculous, to this week where you got the Ravens and Bengals, two division rivals, really fighting for their playoff lives here, this is finally going to be a good Thursday night football game. And this is one where both teams, like you mentioned, are coming off really tough losses. I mean, Houston's a phenomenal team this year, and CJ Stroud, for my money, is the rookie of the year, period. So for them to lose that game is heartbreaking. And on top of the fact that the Bengals had a chance to tie, if not win the contest, with the wide open receiver in Tyler Boyd in the end zone, he drops the ball. Things could have changed differently for Cincinnati entering this matchup. On the other hand, for Baltimore, they had a lead. They lost the lead. The Browns blew the extra point when they were going to tie the game in the first place. And then eventually, Cleveland comes storming down the field, wins the game in last-minute heroic fashion, and Baltimore loses their matchup at home. The difference is for this one is that Baltimore is going to have the chance to bounce back in their home stadium. Cincinnati has to travel to Baltimore to play this game.
Yeah.
So this is going to be really intriguing to see how both these teams bounce back. I think Baltimore has the edge when it comes to home field advantage and the ability to really, rile up the crowd. My thing for Cincinnati is that, they've gone into hostile environments the past couple weeks and they've been able to win games. But a lot of their wins have come at home as well. So knowing how big this game is and knowing what the Bengals are just coming off last week, Cincinnati is going to make it interesting, but I don't see them having the edge. I'm going to go with Baltimore. And I'm going with Baltimore because of the fact that they've been so much better at home and they've been better than the Bengals have been on the road. So I think with that in mind, I think that tells you a lot. And if
Yeah.
you look at the two biggest wins they've had this year by dominating fashion, at home versus Detroit, they won by 30 points. At home versus Seattle, they won by more than 30 points. So I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but I think when it comes to the Ravens having home field advantage, and even though they lost last week, they put up 30 points again in Baltimore.
Yep.
I think they're going to find a way to do that, but I think the Bengals might put up 20 or so. So go with Baltimore. I think they'll get up by maybe 7 to 10 points. And look, I mean, with how both teams have played all year long, Baltimore has surprisingly been the better team. And
Yeah.
last time around in Ohio, Cincinnati just lost to Baltimore. So Baltimore was able to go in there and knock off a win. It's tough to beat any team 2 times in one season.
Yep.
But if Baltimore can do it against a division foe like Cincinnati in their home stadium on Thursday night, that's going to be huge for them. I think that's going to work out for them. I think they get the win. Give me Baltimore by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, as much as it pains me to say this as somebody who really likes the Bengals, I'm gonna go Baltimore on this one as well. Uh, Look, Baltimore side, the Bengals are in a weird place right now. It doesn't sound like they have T. Higgins again. Chase is playing, but his back is a little banged up from a
Right.
fall a few games ago, so he's not 100%. Without Higgins out there, you know, it was causing Bo some trouble getting the ball to Chase. Obviously, yes, he did get the big touchdown to Chase, but besides that, until that, it really wasn't a lot going on for Jamar Chase. Um, Tyler Boyd with a massive, massive botch in the end zone. I think, with how Baltimore has looked this year, there is no way they go, you could say that the Bengals have the edge in that game, especially going into Baltimore.
Mhm.
I feel like they're just such a strong home team, Baltimore.
Yeah.
Look, we're back to seeing the usual Joe Burrow, which is a good thing for the Bengals. But That Ravens defense could give them trouble. I really
Well,
think so.
I mean, the fact that this Ravens defense has shut down the explosive Detroit Lions and a Seattle team that's got Geno Smith and Tyler Lockett and Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf, Seattle's no regular Joe. They have a good offense. And say what you want about their defense, but their offense is very, very strong.
Yes.
And for Baltimore to shut them down to 3 points only, and for Baltimore to win 37-3 at home, I think tells you a lot right there.
Yep.
So, I mean, part of me wouldn't be shocked if Baltimore won by a 37 or 38-7 or 3 margin. I wouldn't be surprised. But knowing how big this game is for both squads and knowing that it's a big primetime game as well, I just don't see that happening on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, you'd be surprised because we've had awful games between awful teams, and we've had one team just dominate the other one completely in primetime television, or primetime streaming, as they call it now with Amazon.
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, again, this is going to be a really, really back and forth game for both squads. And for Baltimore, if they're able to hold on and play a full 60 minutes, then the world is their oyster.
Yeah.
And I think with that in mind, we look at how good the Ravens defense has been, like you mentioned. They're going to exploit the Bengals' offensive weakness. And on top of the fact where you got those two receivers and Chase and Higgins banged up, who is Joe Burrow going to throw to? Now, Joe Mixon will be an option, but if Joe Mixon gets limited by the rush defense by Baltimore and they're stacking more men against the offense in general for Cincinnati, who is Joe Burrow going to find?
Yeah.
I don't know. And if they're going to contain some of these players, and let's say Chase and Higgins are limited, but they play and they're not 100%, then that's another hindrance for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So you throw in all these factors. Baltimore is not just more healthy, but when they're healthy, they're obviously a lot better than this Bengals football team.
Yeah. No, 100%. What it does sound like on the Higgins situation is it does not sound like Higgins is playing. That could change, by the way. But
right. Well, I mean, again, whether he plays or not, he's not 100%. Same thing with Jamar Chase. And for this Bengals team, they're going to have to look to Joe Mixon a lot, not just on the ground, but even in the passing game to a certain extent. Because Joe Burrow still has to throw the ball to someone.
yes.
And if he's going to have to throw to his top running back, then that puts the Bengals in an interesting but also a weary spot without having those two receivers to, help things out more. So again, the pressure is more on Cincinnati to win this game. If Baltimore loses this game, it's bad enough, yes, but you still split the season series with this team. If Cincinnati loses both times to Baltimore
probably not.
And in Maryland, I mean, that's a detriment to them winning the division. But yeah, Jason, I mean, maybe you were trying to say that their playoff hopes maybe go down a bit. Now, they're in a stacked AFC with the likes of Houston and Jacksonville and, some other teams that are trying to vie for a wild card spot. The Bills are barely in it still. You've got teams like Cleveland and Pittsburgh right behind Cincinnati, or rather right above Cincinnati right now in the standings. If those teams can just get through and chug along towards the end, and if Cincinnati loses this game and some couple more that maybe they should have won, or maybe they lose in general, that really hurts their playoff chances. So this game determines where the Bengals go in the long run. And if they lose this contest, it's not guaranteed they could miss the postseason, but the chances of them not even getting to the playoffs really, really take a hit.
Yeah, I'll say it now. Last thing before we move on to the 1 o'clock window is if they, I'll say it now that like you said, they're not going to be, in shambles with making the playoffs if they lose this game. But with them, if they lose the game and they lose the season series with them, I will most likely say there's no shot of them winning the division officially.
Oh, no,
they will be 2 games out with no tiebreaker.
2 games out, no tiebreaker. They don't play Baltimore again. And if the Ravens can build off the surge against beating a big division foe like that, and keep in mind they're probably playing Pittsburgh and Cleveland again later this year, at least one of those teams. And if they win that game later on, then it's definitely over. Yeah. So right now, surprisingly, this is Baltimore's division to lose. And many would have thought it would have been the opposite way, that the Bengals would have been on top of the division. And the fact that it's the opposite, it's surprising, but it also tells you that any given thing can happen in football. And for the Bengals, with how bad they were to kick off the year, sure, they've been better here and there, but they're starting to come back down to planet Earth again like they were to kick off the year. That's really hurt them. And for Baltimore, sure, they've had some bad games here and there, but they've just been so consistently good at home against top-notch other
Yep.
teams like Seattle and Detroit.
Yes.
So, I mean, you really go with Baltimore, but again, anything could happen, but still side with the Ravens for this one.
Yes. Eventually, if you were the Bengals, you got to stop early on in the season shooting yourself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
Look, they pulled it off last year where they got back into the mix. They actually won the division. Eventually, you're not going to be able to pull that off. That's all I'll say.
Well, I mean, that, and also you look at their schedule last year compared to this year, a lot different. And guaranteed Tennessee's not good, but they got killed by Tennessee in Nashville. Last year, they beat the sorry Jets to get back to 500. And from there, made a run to a second straight AFC championship game.
Yep.
So you put those things in mind, it's the schedule that's different for them this year. And on top of the fact that Joe Burrow, ever since he got the contract, has not been meeting those standards.
Yep. 100% agree. But we move into the 1 o'clock window, another divisional matchup between two 6-3 teams. We got the Steelers, Browns. What do you got on this one?
These are two of the most fraudulent 6-3 teams of all time. And we've talked about this before. And we've said this on the air. We've said this off the air. I mean, Pittsburgh barely won last time. And the reason why they won is because Nick Chubb had one of the worst knee injuries of all time.
Yep.
So if Nick Chubb is healthy, then Cleveland's a little different, and they're in a different spot in general. But now that, you have these two teams, injuries aside, 6-3 right now, despite, recent wins and really some, back and forth contests that they've barely won, like for Cleveland last week in Baltimore. This is going to be interesting. And honestly, these two teams obviously are rooting for Baltimore to win because it helps their playoff chances.
Yep.
But whoever wins this game, I don't say they get in the postseason, but their reality of making the playoffs grows.
Yep.
And let's not forget, Pittsburgh won last time. If Pittsburgh gets a season sweep over Cleveland, I'm not saying the Browns are completely done, but their chances go down even further. But if Cleveland wins this game, then you're sort of at a 50-50 split where both of these horses are still in the race, and you're not sure if they can finish the entire way. One of them might not. But, with how bad Cincinnati's been in general this year, you see both of these teams and you see their abilities to really win this game and keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yep.
Look, I mean, I don't know who to go with in this game because, like last time, it was so back and forth. Chubb got hurt. Pittsburgh barely won. Deshaun Watson got hurt again last week and was horrific despite him getting injured. 1 of 9 threw a pick 6. Look, I mean, P.J. Walker, Phillip Walker, he came in there and he was able to lead the Browns to a comeback effort, but it's more the Browns defense doing it. Myles Garrett is having a remarkable season.
Yep.
So if Cleveland wins this game, they win the game on defense easily, with Myles Garrett getting so much pressure to the quarterback. And for this Pittsburgh offense, look, I mean, they've been turning things around the past couple of games. Najee Harris is finally getting more involved and seeing more success. Deontay Johnson finally scored a touchdown versus Tennessee 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So you're seeing this offense get more involved and seeing them have more success. But at the same exact time, you see this Pittsburgh team, and if any strong defense like a Cleveland defense gets to them, it hinders their chances and it limits their offensive, production. Yep. So again, this is a game where it's sort of a back and forth coin toss. I think it's going to be a 3-point game like it was last time. And Cleveland won off a game-winning field goal last week in Baltimore. So, you put those things together and you add on the previous circumstances and the circumstances now going into this matchup. Keep in mind, Pittsburgh barely beat Green Bay. And what gets me, Jason, I'm driving from Iowa to Chicago, and my friend has the game on. And seriously, I called this. The last play of the game, Green Bay has the ball. I told him outright, Jordan Love will throw a pick here. What happened, Jason? He threw a pick. Pittsburgh won. So the one time that I actually call something for the Packers, it's misery. And I think if I call a Pittsburgh win again, it's probably going to happen. But if I call a Pittsburgh loss, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. The reason why I'm rambling on for this pick is because I don't really know who to choose with a confident answer. Because again, I'm putting you to sleep right now. You're yawning. I don't know what to do here. I don't know who to exactly choose. And I'm really having this struggle because I really don't know what to expect from this game. But for the sake of the segment and for the sake of keeping you awake and for the sake of, actually picking a team for once, I'm going with Cleveland. And I choose Cleveland despairingly because, again, like I said before, their defense is strong. Their defense is solid. Myles Garrett is remarkable. The defense has had a really, really good, turnaround for this Browns team whose offense is not good, whether it's Watson or Walker throwing the ball. So you put, 2 and 2 together. I think this Pittsburgh defense is good, or rather this Cleveland defense is good enough to win a game against a Pittsburgh offense that is so hit or miss, despite them doing well the past couple matchups. So I think with this struggle and with this overall test for the Steelers offense, I don't think they're going to meet the expectations, and I think Myles Garrett's going to have a field day. Now, again, you can say the same thing for T.J. Watt and this Pittsburgh defense too. Look, I mean, this game will be a defensive matchup with T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett going after both quarterbacks. But I think with Cleveland being a little more stable recently, barely, I'll go with the Browns.
Yeah.
And the game's in Cleveland, keep in mind, too.
True.
So they have the home field advantage as well, which is something I forgot to mention, but they have that advantage. And the last time they played a really good team in general, or they knocked off a season for any team and, towards the bottom, they beat the 49ers at home. And they won that game off pure defense. So if they're going to knock off a team season again who's playoff potentially worthy like Pittsburgh, they could do it again. And I don't say it with complete confidence, but I think they'll find a way to do it.
Yeah, look, with these two teams, it's never pretty. So I think this is going to be a really ugly game. I am going to take Cleveland. It will be, like you said, a very, very close game. I don't think either of these teams are capable of really blowing each other out in the game. Just with how their games tend to be. Again, it's also, like we said, a big division matchup. So I do think it will be close. The Browns need to get, Cooper involved and Jerome Ford involved again. For the Steelers, keep Deontay Johnson involved.
Yeah.
Keep Najee Harris hot. Warren has been incredible behind Harris. He's been on fire lately. Kid is actually so fast. It's incredible. George Pickens needs to do a little bit more. But again, I think this is a scenario of both teams have much prettier defenses than they do offenses. So I don't think it's going to be, a pretty game to watch. I think it's going to be typical Steelers, Cleveland football. But yeah, I don't really have too much to say on this one. I will go with the Browns. But it's a game where I feel like I could see it going either way because if Deshaun Watson ends up playing, for all we know, he gets hurt again and out comes PJ Walker and the Steelers beat up on a backup. Who knows? Not that PJ Walker's bad, but I have little faith in Deshaun Watson's ability to stay healthy.
Well, look, I mean, that's one thing, and who knows if he's even going to play for Cleveland versus Pittsburgh this week. So, look, I mean, we touched on a lot of it already. I think Cleveland barely wins. It's really, which defense is better. And right now, Myles Garrett's playing better than TJ Watt. TJ Watt's still playing phenomenal, still playing good, but Myles Garrett's playing millions of galaxies better right now.
Yeah.
TJ Watt and this Browns defense is more consistent and stable than Pittsburgh's.
No, completely agree. So I do think that will lead the Browns to this win. We move into the next 1:00 game, a game that could be a little bit of a blowout. We got Raiders Dolphins. What do you think here?
All right, here's the deal. The reason why the Raiders are 5-5 and in a postseason situation is because they played the crummy Giants and the Jets that blew it again. They're gonna get steamrolled in Miami. They will get steamrolled. Aiden O'Connell is not bad. The Raiders' defense is okay. Max Crosby is good. But Miami is much better. And we look at the way the Dolphins have exposed Denver. They've exposed other teams across the league with their remarkable rushing attack. This Ravens defense or Raiders defense, whether it's Max Crosby or whoever you want to name, they're not going to keep up with Miami. The run game alone is going to win the matchup for the Dolphins. On top of the fact that the Dolphins defense is going to get pressure to Aiden O'Connell, and you look at the rest of these receivers, besides Devontae Adams, they're not doing good this year. And for some reason, they still can't get Josh Jacobs involved. Now, he's been playing a little better. Don't get me wrong. He's been playing a lot better ever since they fired Josh McDaniels. But at the same time, look, I mean, this Raiders team is just not that good. And they're honestly a laughingstock because of how bad they've been this year. And when they pay Jimmy G all that money for him to sit on the bench because he's that bad, and the rookie from Purdue has to come in and he's playing a little better or playing somewhat more competent, that tells you a lot. So I think with those things in mind, the Raiders have improved, but the Dolphins are light years better than this team. And Miami, I mean, who would have thought that they'd be having such a division lead over both Buffalo and even the Jets to a certain extent? Now, look, I mean, it's not that. It's close, but for Buffalo to just be that bad the past couple of weeks, and for Josh Allen to be horrific, and on Monday night to have the most ridiculous way to lose a game to the Denver Broncos in your home stadium on Monday is also ridiculous. So, look, put all the pieces together for this for this Buffalo team, and Miami is just so much better than them. And honestly, you think back to it, how the heck did the Bills beat this Dolphins team by more than 20 points early this year?
I have no idea.
No, it's insane. But as time goes on, things change, and Miami's been so much better, and the Dolphins are at home. And with them being at home, it gives them more of an edge against a Raiders team that struggles a lot on the road. So, look, I mean, put those things together. I think Miami wins easily. And the last time the Raiders played a really good offensive team, it was the Lions in Detroit. They got embarrassed. So I think the Raiders will get embarrassed versus Miami. Tua doesn't even have to have a great game. Tyreek Hill can be Tyreek Hill. That's fine. But this run game is really going to do the work for this for this Dolphins team. And if they get 3-4 touchdowns on the ground, that's going to be more than enough to win this game.
Yeah. Look, I'm 100% going Dolphins in this one as well. If anyone didn't, they're crazy. I think Waddle and Hill, as you said, they're going to be really, really good this week. Look, for the Raiders, I mean, look, McConnell's played significantly better than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's been able to at least get them wins, get them to a 500 record.
Yeah.
But you got some guys over there who are probably very, very frustrated on the offense. Josh Jacobs is probably frustrated with his lack of production. We know Devontae Adams is frustrated as well. Frustration does not bode well against a team like the Dolphins, who are about to be bombing the ball or down the field on you, running the ball. There's literally nothing this Dolphins team can't do. They can do everything.
Oh, I know.
So just overall, this is such a scary team. Now they have Jalen Ramsey playing too, finally, for defense. So the defense got even better. I think the Raiders are in for a really, really rough day unless the Dolphins pull off some massive, massive choke or collapse in this game. I don't even think this is going to be close. I could see the Dolphins putting up 40 here, Alex.
I mean, look, I mean, whether it's 30, 40, whatever, I mean, again, like I said before, the run game will just do it for them. But at the same time, Tyreek Hill can have a great game, but he doesn't have to put up 200 yards. Tyreek Hill can have 100 yards and 1 touchdown, and that'll be just enough to win the game for Miami.
Yep. No, 100%. But yeah, again, it sucks for McConnell getting thrown into the situation. He's done a very good job with it, but I do not see it continuing, at least this week. We move in to the next 1 o'clock game. This could be another really ugly game. We go into a slew of some really ugly games, actually. We got another divisional game. We got Bears Lions. What do you got here?
Oh my goodness. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Here's the deal. Chicago sucks. We all know that. The Bears are awful. And the reason why they have 3 wins, just like the Packers, is because they played the freaking Carolina Panthers. So the Packers stink and the Bears are just as bad. So give me a break, number one. Number two, Justin Fields might come back versus Detroit. And if that's the case, I don't think they win, but I think they get more offensive production. And look,
Okay.
say what you want about Justin Fields this year. Say what you want about his struggles. Say what you want about the injury, whatever. But against Washington, to get the Bears a big win, their first of the season after Dick Butkus died, Justin Fields looked really, really good.
Man.
And even with that loss to Denver, with the tough pick towards the end, Justin Fields had 4 touchdowns against the Broncos.
Yeah.
Justin Fields is a good quarterback. Now, say what you want about, him being healthy and being consistent and whatever else. Okay, fine. But Justin Fields has been a good quarterback for the Bears. And last year, even when they weren't that great last year either, Fields had a really good season, and he played really well in Detroit versus the Lions.
Yep.
So, again, Chicago's not going to win the game by any stretch. Detroit's going to steamroll them.
Yes.
Detroit's going to put up 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. The run game with Montgomery and Gibbs is going to carry them to success again. But if you look at Justin Fields and you look at his performance alone this week, whether he throws 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, whether he's down by 20 points, whatever the final score is, if you're a Bears fan and you watch Chicago Bears football, if Justin Fields is healthy enough to play, all you need is for him to play well. And if he plays well, that's a win by itself. I think it's going to happen. Now, look, we talked about the Raiders and then getting steamrolled by Detroit last time. The Raiders were on the road. But Justin Fields has started to build chemistry with DK Metcalf, with Cole Kmet, with the game
DJ
in general.
Moore, right? Yeah.
Huh?
You said Metcalf. You meant Moore, right?
Yeah. DJ Moore. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Anyway, he's been building that chemistry with DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and some of these other pieces offensively for the Bears. If he can do that again, if he's healthy, then look, they lose, but they make it somewhat respectable.
Yes.
Regardless, Detroit's going to win because of how good the run game is. Jared Goff's having a good year. St. Brown's been phenomenal. So is Reynolds, Laporta. All this, talent on the offense just outmatches Justin Fields and this Bears team. And the defense for Detroit against maybe Justin Fields, maybe Tyson Badgett. Look, they're going to be good, but like I've said, Justin Fields, I think, will have a good game, but not good enough to win the matchup. Yes. On top of the fact, the Bears defense will not be able to compete with this Lions offense. This Bears defense is atrocious. This Bears defense is so bad.
Yep.
And that's going to be the deciding factor right there. That the Lions offense is going to have a field day at home, and this Bears defense is not going to be able to keep up whatsoever. So
100%.
Lions win easily, no question about it. But Justin Fields should have a good game if he plays.
Justin Fields is expected to play. I just read that before we got on here.
Right. Again, he's expected to play, so he's not 100% guaranteed to play.
Yes.
So look, we'll see what happens for his sake and for the Bears. As much as I can't stand the Bears, I hope Justin Fields plays and that he has a good game.
Yeah.
But at the same exact time, you see this Bears team, and you want to see some type of production, even though they have 3 mere wins. Yeah. You want to see Justin Fields build into his own, because you drafted a guy for a reason, and you should be committed to him no matter what.
Yes.
Say say what you want about Daniel Jones and the Giants and whatever. They were committed to Jones after 1 good year. And at the time, Daniel Jones deserved the contract he got. But now he's a disaster. And now the Giants are in a situation where they're probably going to have to draft a quarterback this year if they keep tanking and they keep playing bad, which is probably going to happen. Chicago shouldn't have to be in that situation with Justin Fields. 1, because Justin Fields is more talented than Daniel Jones, period. Yes. And number 2, Justin Fields has more potential and has a higher ceiling than Daniel Jones. And on top of the fact that even though he has struggled, Justin Fields last year and this year has shown really good glimpses of promise. And
Yep.
if you build more of an offense around him and you give him more defensive support, then Justin Fields will be a good quarterback for the Chicago Bears.
Yep.
So, look, whatever happens this year, whatever happens with Fields health-wise, and if he comes back, hopefully for his sake, he comes back on Sunday, and if he's able to stay healthy and play the rest of the season, whatever happens to the Bears this year, all you would like to see is production from Justin Fields, and if they get that, you keep him, and you avoid any offseason chaos involving a different quarterback.
Yeah, at this point, you just want to see him end on a good note, as you just said.
But regardless, Detroit's going to kill Chicago because the Chicago defense absolutely stinks.
Yeah, I got Detroit in this one by a mile. I could totally see them putting up 35 points in this as well, maybe more.
Easily. I mean, they put up 30 points versus Vegas last time on Monday Night Football. So why is that not going to change?
Yeah, 2 touchdowns for Montgomery. I'm going to call it now. 2 touchdowns for Montgomery and 1 for Gibbs. 3 between the two.
I second that.
I just overall significantly better this team. I feel bad for a guy like DJ Moore, obviously, who ended up in this situation. And look, obviously, him and Fields are, building something together.
Yeah.
But it is a rough position to be moved to a team like that. It really is. Obviously, if he stayed in Carolina, it wouldn't have been much better.
Right.
But this is still rough. I mean, you've been working with backup quarterback for the last few weeks. And yet again, I feel like everyone thought the Bears were going to be at least a little bit better this year, at least a competent team that could win a good amount of games, not necessarily make the playoffs. And yet again, the Bears just disappoint. So I think the Lions 100% win this game by a good margin, to be honest. I could see it being like 35-40 to like 20-something.
Well, look, I mean, again, I see that too, or maybe a 35-17 game or something like that. But if Justin Fields throws 2 touchdowns and no picks and he has a clean game, that's a win for Chicago right there.
Oh, 100%.
And one of those touchdowns is to DJ Moore. That's also a win. Because look, look who was throwing to him before in Carolina: Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Joe Schmo, the rest of these jobbers basically off the street, to use a WWE wrestling term. But look, I mean,
the James Ellsworths of quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, exactly. But now that he's got a talented kid in Justin Fields, and yes, he's had shakeups and whatever, and some injury issues, but he's got a good quarterback thrown to him. Seriously, he does.
Yep.
And with Fields being healthy, hopefully on Sunday, and what we saw versus Denver and Washington, there's been good production from Justin Fields with DJ Moore in the mix. So, again, it's just Chicago's got to build more pieces around Fields, especially on the offensive line, because their O-line is horrific. The reason why he got hurt was because of how bad the O-line is. Build more pieces around Fields and Moore and give them a better defense. And Chicago maybe wins 7-8 games. Maybe they get to the postseason. Who knows?
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely agree with that. We got
Sorry, real quickly. They honestly are in a better position than Green Bay is.
Oh, 100%. Because I mean, look at it. We'll say this quickly. Yep. The whole Jordan Love situation has completely screwed your guys' entire team.
I know.
Yes, you guys are in a very, very weird place.
I know. It's painful. It's awful.
And you guys are probably on pace for Christian Watson asking out situation.
It is Devontae Adams all over again. What can I tell you?
All right, though. We move into the next 1:00 game. We got 5 minutes to go over this game before we gotta restart the call. But we got another division matchup. I think this is a must bounce back game for the Jaguars. We got Titans, Jacksonville. What do you got here?
I mean, Jacksonville should win this game.
Yeah.
I mean, they won 5 or 6 straight before getting blown out at home to San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, Jacksonville was on the high horse. They really were. They were playing phenomenal. Really, they were. They were playing such great football. And to see them just get blown out, embarrassed at home to a struggling 49ers team that was 5-0 and lost 3 or 4 straight. I mean, how do you have that happen? But they're given a gift this week against a really bad Tennessee team. And if they can't beat Tennessee, then they got real problems.
Yes.
I mean, if you go from winning 5 straight to dropping 2 in a row,
It's
especially the
losing
second
one
one
to
to the
Tennessee.
Titans,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a really, really bad problem.
Yes. This is one of those scenarios, Alex, where you're in a bit of a weird place, like where you lost a game, and you look at the schedule, and it just so perfectly falls in a game like this, and it's a perfect game you had to take advantage of as a backup game. Like, game to get yourself going and stuff. Sorry, I don't know why I said a backup game. A perfect game to really reset everything and get yourself back on track. Um, they got very lucky that this came right after they got blown out. They have the perfect opportunity to just get back right on the right track. So this is a must win. To be honest, if Jacksonville loses this game, you got to actually be a little concerned about Jacksonville with how hot the Texans have been. That's just my opinion. I just think if, stays at this point, Jacksonville could be in a lot of trouble if they do lose this game.
Oh, no, for sure. And on top of that notion, I mean, with CJ Stroud being so good this year and this Texans team surprising the entire league, yeah, I mean, Jacksonville can't afford to lose this contest, especially against a really bad Titans team. So if they find a way to lose this game, then that's a problem by itself. But on top of that notion, with Houston right behind them, I mean, if Jacksonville drops to a wild card and even maybe misses the postseason, that's a failed season in its own right.
Oh,
Look,
to go from 6-2 to potentially have that happen, yeah.
oh sure, but at the same time, you still make the postseason potentially. If they make the playoffs, it's not that bad of a drop. It's bad that they go from division leader to wild card. That's one thing, sure, but anything can happen in the postseason. And
Yes,
Jacksonville,
yeah.
the past couple of years, sure they've been sort of hit or miss, but let's remember in 2017 and let's remember last year, they had some pretty good postseason runs.
Yes,
And they almost made a Super Bowl against Philadelphia 5 years ago or
yes,
whatever it was. So the fact that Jacksonville's in this spot, it's not great, but it's not awful either. But keep in
yes.
mind, you cannot afford to lose games like this. And
No.
if they find a way to get blown out to Tennessee or just lose the game outright, that is a horrible problem that you need to fix.
Yes.
And my memory might be wrong in this, but I believe Houston and Jackson will play again
I
this
think
year.
they do.
And they play in Texas because last time they played in Florida and the Texans embarrassed Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So if they lose a season series to a rookie quarterback who's going to be the rookie of the year and this Houston team that's come out of nowhere to have a really good year,
Yeah.
on top of the fact that they beat Cincinnati in
They're in
Ohio,
trouble.
I mean, that is a problem. So
Yes.
more pressure is on Jacksonville in general the rest of the year, but the pressure is on them especially to find a way to win
Yes.
this game.
Yeah, we
So
got 1 minute, so I do want to say this. Obviously, I want to get my pick. Jacksonville's going to win this game.
I
I think
I
they'll
think
easily.
Jacksonville wins too. Yeah.
Yes. Look, I'll say it now because we got less than a minute. Mark my words. Next year, if it's not this year, the Texans win that division. That's all
Yeah.
I'm going to end this on.
No, it's true.
So must win for Jacksonville. If they lose, they're in a lot of trouble.
Yep.
So Alex, the next game I want to get into, and I think this is a good way to start the second half of the segment. You might end up ranting a little bit on this, but we got the Chargers versus your Packers. What do you got here?
All right, Jason. All right, hold on. Let me breathe. Let me just stretch out for a second and say why the Packers suck and they're not going to win this game. Jordan Love, 3 games in a row on the potential game-winning drive, has thrown an interception against 3 different AFC teams. Now they're going to play another AFC team that has a remarkable offense, but does not have a good defense.
Yeah.
But knowing Jordan Love, he's going to make the Chargers defense look like the 1985 Bears. He is ridiculously so bad. And look, I was happy to see him start. 6 touchdowns, 3 games. Great start. Don't get me wrong. But now, it's honestly pathetic. And now that the Packers are saying, oh, we're not committed to Jordan Love, or we're not sure about what his future looks like following this year, then why'd you draft him in the first place? Look, I can have a Packers rant for months and years with this pick, but I'm going to save you and your viewers sanity and clarity and time. Green Bay's just not winning this game.
Yeah.
And you know what? It worked 2 weeks ago when I said the Rams win. the Packers won. Last week, I chose Pittsburgh to win. The Packers blew it. So you know what? I'm just saying outright, the Packers lose. The Packers will lose this game. The Chargers will come on in. They're going to beat up on this Packers defense. They lost Rasul Douglas. Jair Alexander's been kind of back and forth. He's been good in general, but sometimes his ego really gets to him.
Yeah.
This front seven's been bad this year. The secondary, again, painful. And the Packers offense can't do jack squat. So you're going to see Jordan Love have another miserable game. You're going to see more terrible play calling by Matt LaFleur, and you're going to see the Packers get embarrassed yet again against a really good Chargers team that has a good offense, and Justin Herbert's starting to wake up again. Now, Justin Herbert's been struggling a bit, but he's starting to turn ship around the past couple of games. He's playing better. He's playing a lot better. And even though, that game versus Detroit was back and forth, Herbert had a lot of good offensive moments, especially with his top wide receiver in Keenan Allen. So put those pieces together, and the Chargers offense is going to win the game outright for this team.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, as I say this, I'm wrong, and the Packers somehow get a fourth win this year. But what I've seen from Jordan Love and what I've seen, period, it's not going to happen. Chargers win.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this now. While obviously you don't want to lose any game, you got to be in a scenario of, look, it was a 41-38 game. What more could you do? I mean, you're scoring. Obviously you could get some defensive stops too, but your offense is rolling. You put up 38 points.
Yeah.
The offense can't do much more than that.
And knowing against this bad, very bad Green Bay team and defense especially, why couldn't the Chargers do that again? They're probably going to.
Yeah.
If not 38, they'll put up 25-30. No question about it.
Yeah.
And that's all they need, because the Packers can barely put up 20. I mean, heck, they had 19 last week, and on the potential game-winning drive, guess who threw a pick? And guess who called the pick? Yours truly, Jordan Love, threw the game-ending interception on a potential game-winning drive for a third time this year. I wouldn't be shocked if that happens again, if it even gets to that point.
Yep.
So on top of that, this team stinks. This team is awful. Green Bay can't score. Green Bay is ridiculous. Jordan Love is awful. Jordan Love stinks. I don't love him. I can't stand him. And with those things in mind, the Chargers are going to steamroll this Packers team. And again, the Chargers defense doesn't have to play that good this week. They're not good to begin with. But with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack being the bright sparks, if those guys have good games and they get pressure to Jordan Love, that's all they're going to need.
Yeah.
They don't need to have their secondary play good. They don't need to have the, front seven really do much. All they need is Jordan Love to be Jordan Love. Jordan Love sucks. That's all. That's it. I give up.
Not much for me to say in this game. The Chargers and
I think I covered most of it, if not all of it already.
Yeah, Keenan Allen and Eckler and Herbert, these guys should completely run over this Packers team. I expect a blowout, just like you said. But to save you sanity, we'll move on to the next game.
Thank you.
Another 1:00 window game. I actually think with Kyler back, this game went from probably a blowout to actually a really fun game. We got Kyler Murray and the Cardinals versus CJ Stroud and the Texans. What do you got here?
Look, Houston's got it outright. CJ Stroud's playing out of this world. I think they're going to win, and the Cardinals defense will not keep up with the offense at all. But Kyler Murray has shown promise in his way back. And on top of that, you've got this Cardinals defense that is just so bad. Yeah. So I think with this Cardinals defense being so bad, Houston coming off the great win they had last week, they're going to put up a whole bunch of points with Stroud, Schultz, all the different pieces all throughout this offense. Yeah. There's no question in my mind that Houston wins this game. Houston is going to win the game completely. Arizona is going to make it interesting. Now, their defense is not going to keep them in the contest, but their offense might put up maybe 20 points. Yeah. And if they got that from Kyler Murray, that's pretty good. And keep in mind, Kyler Murray and the gang upset Atlanta last week. Yeah. It's not going to be the same result. But at the same exact time, I think if they put up 20 points and they show a decent showing, they could give Houston a run for the money in the offensive category, despite the Cardinals defense not being good. So I think it could be a 30-20 game. I think it could be maybe a 35-20 game. I see it being within 10 to 15 points, but I think the Cardinals play for pride on the offense. But knowing how bad the defense is, Houston's going to have a field day, and they're going to win the game no matter how good Kyler Murray plays.
Yes. Look, the Texans got to realize they have a golden opportunity here. If they win this game and Jacksonville loses, I believe they actually, via tiebreaker, would be first in the division, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that would make sense because they do have the tiebreaker based off the one game. And if they season sweep Jacksonville, and if it comes down to those two teams towards the end of the season on who wins the division, Houston has the edge.
Yes.
So put 2 and 2 together, and Houston has all the cards in their favor.
Yes. This is a must win, though, in my opinion, for the Texans if they want a shot at winning the division. Look, you got to be able to beat a team like this if you really want to show you're a really good team, a team that could be dangerous when it comes down to the playoffs and the big games. They showed it last week by beating the Bengals. This will be another big win against a team that's significantly worse than the Bengals. You need Tank Dow, Singletary. I don't know if Damian Pierce is back. You need Dalton Schultz to continue what he's been doing. Look, I'll give the Cardinals this. Kyler Murray looked good. They also got James Conner back. The Cardinals must be so ecstatic that the new Call of Duty game sucked, so Kyler Murray finally got off his ass and came to play a game.
Well, look, I know nothing about Call of Duty. All I know is that I'm the worst Call of Duty player on the face of the earth. And when it comes to that or Fortnite or any of these shooting games, I mean, a chipmunk can play better than me. And for Kyler Murray to be back off the torn ACL and now has to go back to work because of that. Look, I mean, again, it's good for Arizona. And despite the Cardinals being a horrific team this year, the way that they dealt off Josh Dobbs was really, really good for this team.
Yes.
And, the point I'm trying to make here right now is that even though they are having a bad year, their defense is not good, their offense ain't great, the team is not good as a whole, the fact that they had Josh Dobbs fill in, who did very well, now he's in Minnesota, he's doing better there, to bring back Kyler and to give Kyler back the keys, I mean, that was just a remarkable handoff. And if you're taking away any positives for this Cardinals season that's been so bad, you take that positive, that you had the backup quarterback step in, show promise, he gets dealt away, your main guy comes back, he's been good so far since he's come back from the injury.
He gets a win, yeah.
He gets a win, and now that, again, the keys are back in his control, he has nothing to lose besides playing good. Yes. And whether he stays with Arizona or not in the long term, if Kyler Murray has a solid year, that is productive for the Cardinals. But let's say he does stay, that's even more productive. That Kyler Murray comes back following the injury, has a good year after a backup quarterback filled in his place for a while, and he did well, and he's doing great somewhere else.
Yep. No, 100% agree. I will say the Texans win this. I mean, that Texans offense is scary enough that they could always put up 25 points a game, in my opinion. I think that could happen again this week. Look, the Cardinals will do decent. I guarantee you they get a touchdown for James Conner. They do something. The one good thing for the Cardinals, was they got Rondale Moore involved a little bit. But overall, yes, I do think this is going to be a win for the Texans, and Cardinals will drop to, I believe it would be 2-9. Yes, 2-9. Okay. But we move into the next game on the 1:00 window. That is probably going to be the shortest game we had to cover because we pretty much know the outcome of this game. Cowboys-Panthers. What do you got to briefly say on this one?
Look, why are the Dallas Cowboys playing the crummy New York Giants and the worst Carolina Panthers back-to-back weeks?
Because they got to feed this trashy Cowboys team wins, so people think they have a shot in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, that, but also to make Dak Prescott look better. And look, Dak's playing good this year. I will give him credit for that. He really is. But he still is so overrated. And you look at some of the teams he's played, like the Giants, like the Panthers this week, like the
The
Commanders,
Jets.
the Jets without Rodgers. He's beating up on crummy teams.
Yeah.
And look, CeeDee Lamb is making him so good. It's not that look, I'll give Dak Prescott the credit in some areas, but the reason why Dak Prescott looks so good is because of how CeeDee Lamb is carrying him basically.
Yes.
CeeDee Lamb is a remarkable receiver. And honestly, if you put CeeDee Lamb on Philadelphia or any other team, it's a whole different story.
Oh, 100%.
So look, I mean, yeah, Dallas wins this game easily. Carolina's getting blown out, no question about it. And I would like to have more time to talk about more relevant games than this crap show with Dak Prescott.
Yes. All I was saying in this game is it's the Panthers. The Panthers suck. They just lost to the Bears. I could see the Cowboys putting up another 40-point game here. I
Well,
really
yeah,
could.
when you play Tommy DeVito sitting on his mother's couch, and now and now Bryce Young and the Panthers the next week, of course you're gonna put up 40 points again.
Yeah. So I could see CeeDee Lamb having another 2 to 3 touchdowns. It's just gonna be ugly. These are the kind of games that I'm so happy I drafted Dak Prescott in fantasy for. So it's just gonna be a blowout. Panthers fall to 1-9. We move into the last 1 o'clock window, and it doesn't get any prettier. A division matchup: Giants versus Commanders. What do you got here?
Again,
Yeah, second game of the season for
look,
them.
you
Yeah.
know what? The fact that the Giants barely beat the Commanders last time at MetLife is not completely, but tugging me towards going with the Giants. But at the same time, I'm going to be a sane human being and choose the Washington Commanders. And I'm going to choose the Washington Commanders because they're at home. And guaranteed the Commanders have been awful at home. They got beat up by Buffalo. They got beat up by Chicago. They've been embarrassed at home a lot this year.
Yep.
But you're now at home against this horrible team that probably could get Caleb Williams in the draft.
Yep.
So with that in mind, and Jason, for the sake of time as well, just choose Washington. Sam Howell can have a bad game or a good game. And yes, Chase Young is gone and Montez Sweat is gone and what have you. But I think the Commanders, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt to win this contest. I think they'll win because they're at home. And again, they've not been great at home to begin with, but they did beat Arizona at home to begin the year.
Yep.
And now they play the Giants at home, and they definitely want to bounce back. And they're coming off a tough loss on the road at Seattle. So I think Washington wins, and I think for their sanity, they'll win. And for Tommy DeVito, look, I mean, he can have his mother's pasta, spaghetti, lasagna, whatever he eats. He can play Call of Duty with Kyler Murray during the offseason for all I care. Tommy DeVito is ridiculous. And, I mean, I've never seen a quarterback or any player, period, professional football, professional anything, proudly say that he lives at home with his parents. Tommy DeVito has more money than his parents can ever dream of. He makes roughly $750,000, and his cap hit is just north of $400,000. And look, life is not cheap. It's not cheap to, buy a house or rent an apartment or whatever. But if you're a professional football player,
you should not be living at home.
You can afford an apartment in New Jersey.
Yes.
You'll be fine living by yourself in New Jersey with a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
And again, he's young. He's not married. He doesn't have kids yet. He's not married yet. He can afford that.
So his spending is not off the charts yet. Yeah.
Yes. Well, of course his spending is not off the charts. He's living with mommy and daddy at home in New Jersey. And I mean, the fact that his mother makes his own bed for him, I think shows how bad why he can't throw things to begin with. So
that just sums up my Giants.
Well, look, they suck. They're not going to win. Tommy DeVito's not good. And honestly, the only thing that's going to give them hope is for Danny DeVito to make him a Jersey Mike sub, and that's about it.
This is gonna, I'm gonna say now, this is gonna be a blowout. Commanders, as much as I'm not a big Sam Howell guy, I don't think he's that good either. At least he's proven he could throw for more than 50 yards.
Yes, and I will give him the benefit of the doubt in that notion.
Yes, and look, I'll say it now before we move on. Last thing. The Giants and the Giants fans are probably going through it as well. The sad reality of we're probably realizing that this is the end of Barkley as a Giant.
Yep, and that you've wasted his time.
Yep, 100%. It is a disaster. Barkley, if Barkley considers coming back here, he's insane. I don't see why he would.
No, no, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, you've got honestly for to say this, and I hate the Cowboys. I wouldn't be shocked if he went to Dallas.
I would not either. To be honest, maybe it's like screw you to the Giants for wasting
Oh
my
yeah,
time kind of
oh
thing.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
But we move into the 405 window. We got the Bucks versus Niners. What do you got?
Look, this game's also going to be something. San Francisco finally came back to life, even without a Christian McCaffrey touchdown. His touchdown streak of 17 games ended in Jacksonville in that win. I think he'll score. I think he'll get back on track. I think that the fact that the game's in San Francisco, that helps them at home to a certain extent.
Yep.
Now, guaranteed Cincinnati went in there and beat them up, but they're coming off a big bounce back win that they needed, and Brock Purdy looked good. And the defense was solid. And Chase Young being there now with his buddy Nick Bosa from the Ohio State definitely helps them out. So I think with that, with the recent 49ers resurgence, that they're back at home, that the defense is back to life against Baker Mayfield, who's a joke, I think the 49ers win the game easily. And look, Tampa beat Tennessee, good for them. They're not going to beat San Francisco.
It's Tennessee. It doesn't prove anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield is starting to show again why I don't trust him with my car, and I don't trust him in period. And look, you know what? At one point, I gave him the keys on the weekends.
You taking them back? You're taking them back.
Well, look, I mean, yeah. I gave him the keys on the weekend. Take it out for a spin for an hour or two. Don't crash the car. You'll be fine. He did that. Now he's starting to show why I can't trust him again, because I have speeding tickets, going up and up and up again, thanks to Baker Mayfield. So, you know what? Baker, you're punished. Baker, you're grounded. You are not touching my car again. And you are fired. And honestly, with that in mind,
you sound like Tommy DeVito's parents right now.
Yeah,
with Baker.
Exactly, baby. Well, I am the godfather to a certain extent, so what can I tell you? Look, it is ridiculous. And for Baker, going there, not going to be good. Frisco wins. Defense will pummel him, and you'll see the offense come back to life like it was last week. Jason, simple, Frisco wins. That's it.
Yep. San Francisco wins. I think McCaffrey gets back into the end zone this week. 2 touchdowns for him, probably. Kittle could score. I could see something from Ayuk or Debo. I just overall, I could see them being held below 20, the Bucks, and the Niners being around like the 30 range. I really could.
For sure.
And this will actually, it's crazy to say this won't mark the end of the Bucs season, because that division is just so atrocious.
And now that Derek Carr got hurt again, I mean, it is ridiculous how wide open that division is between the Falcons, Buccaneers, and Saints. And Carolina's there, but they have no reason to exist. So
yes. Over under 8 wins to win that division.
You know what? It might have to be at 8 exactly.
You think?
It might have to be 8 wins exactly. Because, look, last year with the Buccaneers, with Tom Brady last year, and Tom Brady wasn't the same last year.
No,
they were 8-9, and they just got in the postseason.
Yep.
So I think if you win 8 games, that'll be more than enough. Yep. Which is crazy to say, but
no division should ever be won by a team with 8 wins.
I agree with you. But I wouldn't be shocked if a 7-9 or 7-10 team got in there.
Yep. It's exactly like the Minnesota Twins division of none of those teams belong in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But, all right, I will 100% go Niners. We move into the 425 game. We got 4 left. We got the Jets versus Bills. What do you got here?
I don't know, because Zach Wilson sucks, and Josh Allen's been pathetic. So this will be a game of defense.
Yep.
And honestly,
the Jets
when Rodgers got hurt. Zach Wilson played an okay game, but the Jets came back off how good their defense has been all year, and they won in overtime off special teams. And Greg Zuerlein's been good this year. And with Buffalo being such a train wreck the past couple of weeks, and losing in such embarrassing fashion to Denver on Monday, I'm going with the Jets. I think the Jets get the season sweep, even with Zach Wilson. And I say that because of how unpredictable Buffalo is. Now, Buffalo could wake up and bounce back and guarantee the games in Buffalo this time. But based on what I've seen, based off what the trend has been this year for Buffalo, and based on the Jets being back and forth, you go with the back and forth in the Jets because the Jets could have promise with Rodgers coming back.
Yes.
And the Jets, even though their offense isn't good, their defense has been consistently strong, except for the loss to the Chargers.
Yep.
Which, honestly, I don't blame them that much because of how incompetent Zach Wilson was.
Yes.
Because the offense gave the defense in that game no support whatsoever.
Oh,
Same thing in the loss to the Raiders. So with that in mind, I think the Jets improved to 5-5. And with how bad Josh Allen's been with the picks and the incompletions and just the inconsistencies, and the fact that Gabe Davis hasn't been as involved, and the fact that they lost the game off the most embarrassing way possible, you go with the Jets.
Yep.
And honestly, they don't win the game because of Zach Wilson. They don't win the game because of Breece Hall. They win the game because of defense and Greg Zuerlein.
Yep.
Jets will win the game. Buffalo will get swept by the Jets, which no one would have thought that would have happened this year.
Question before I give my opinion. If the Jets lose this game, do you bother bringing Rodgers back?
Yes, you do.
You do? Okay.
If he can come back.
Okay.
Because at this point, you have nothing to lose, and you brought in Rodgers for a reason. And if he wants to play, let him play.
Yep.
At the same time, their schedule is still favorable to a certain extent.
True.
And let's say they're 4-7 by the time he comes back. They're not dead.
Especially with the house, some of these teams are struggling. You're right.
Exactly. They're not dead. They might have one foot in the grave, but they're not dead.
Yeah.
And
if anybody could pull off that comeback, it would be Rodgers.
Of course. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, look, last year, the Packers were 4-7. They were 8-8, and they just missed the postseason. Yep. There are years where 2013 stands out where the Packers barely beat the Bears in Chicago and they won the division to make the playoffs.
Yep.
So, look, you look at all these different things, and Aaron Rodgers is a guy to take a dead franchise back to life.
Yep.
And he's done that with Green Bay year in and year out. And now that he's with the Jets, and if he has a chance to come back, why not do that? Or why not give Gang Green some hope?
Yep, no, 100%. I'm going to go Jets in this game as well. Everything about the Bills has been pathetic lately. The defensive penalties.
Oh, my goodness.
Just awful. The pass interference, too many men on the field when they literally missed the field goal. You took too many men on the field penalty.
Never won.
Yeah, just overall terrible. Allen looks terrible. Yes, Zach Wilson looks terrible. But overall, the Jets defense is what's going to win them that game. The Bills defense is taking hit after hit every game. Somebody goes down on that team. Yep. So overall, my opinion, look, there's got to be frustration building up right now with that Bills offense, and it's going to continue this week. The Jets go to 5-5, and as crazy as it sounds, the Bills drop to 5-6.
Yep.
We move into our last 4:25 game. We got Seahawks-Rams. Doesn't need too much coverage, probably. What do you got here?
Look, I think Seattle will win this time, but let's not forget, in week 1, Seattle got blown out by the Rams at home. Now, this time, it's in Los Angeles. That's different. And Matthew Stafford is still hurt, if my memory is correct. And with that in mind, I think the Seahawks, the way they played last week at home, they bounced back. They beat the Commanders. They're now going to the Rams, and they know the Rams have been a shell so far, and that they've been playing really bad, really since week 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think if you take those things into account, Seattle wins for sure. The offense is starting to get going again. The offense will win the game. They will blow out the Rams, and whether Stafford plays or not, they're going to struggle. So. Yeah, Jason, I think it's quick too. Seattle wins. They'll win by at least 10 points.
Seattle wins. I think Kenneth Walker has a pretty big game and runs over this Rams team as well. Gino was, despite winning last week, he wasn't that good yesterday. I think he wasn't that good last week. I think he has a bounce back week and looks even better and leads them to yet another win. Look, this is a game the Seahawks can't afford to lose, especially with the fact that they're in a tie for that division with 2 games coming up to the Niners soon.
Yep.
So, yeah, Seattle wins this game. They got to be hungry. If they lose to this Rams team, they don't deserve the opportunity to win the division, in my opinion. We move into the Sunday night game, which actually, went from like a really boring Sunday night football game to a rather interesting one. We got Vikings Broncos. What do you got here?
Look, that's going to be intriguing, actually, because Denver, what, they've won 4 straight now?
Three shade.
3 straight?
Yeah.
They've won 3 straight, and they're in a postseason situation.
Yeah.
While Minnesota's Josh Dobbs has been insane ever since Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles.
Yep.
I'm going with Minnesota. Minnesota's the better team. Minnesota's playing a lot stronger, and the way that they've turned this season around in the blink of an eye has been very impressive. And now that Josh Dobbs is there, and that Dobbs is playing out of his mind, it is impressive to see this Vikings offense especially turn ship around. And their defense has improved a little bit. Their defense still isn't the best, but it's been good enough to put them in a postseason situation. Minnesota wins the game outright, but Denver's going to make it interesting.
Yep.
Russell Wilson's playing better, offense playing stronger. They won 3 straight for a reason. They beat up on Buffalo. They stole that win off the Bills' laziness in Buffalo. They beat my sorry Packers. They beat Kansas City by convincing fashion at home. So you put 2 and 2 together, they've been good. They've been very impressive, but I think they'll take a step back because Minnesota's just better than Denver, and I think the Vikings win. Honestly, I think it'll be a closer game than people think.
Yes.
I think it'll be within 7 to 10 points, maybe even 3. But I think Minnesota wins because of how good Josh Dobbs has been, and the fact that the offense has been more than enough with Kirk Cousins getting hurt. They're going to win the game. They'll play well. They'll beat Denver.
Yes. These last couple of weeks have actually built up a little bit of interest in this game. A few weeks ago, you probably would have looked at this and be like, oh, no, this game is going to be horrendous.
Yeah.
But the last few weeks have really built up a lot of interest. I am going to go Vikings. I think Dobbs' little surprise run with the Vikings continues.
Oh, yeah.
The new guy in town continues to lead them to wins. And look, I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos pull something off. I mean, they beaten the Chiefs and they beaten the Bills. I know the Bills have struggled, but you can't underestimate a team that's beaten those two teams.
Oh, yeah.
So, look, I believe the Vikings are still without Jefferson, right? He's not back this week.
Yeah.
Broncos have some good guys on the offense. Addison's been playing good. I still don't think there's Osborne, though, for the Vikings. So
Right.
look, I will give the Vikings the benefit of the doubt and say they will win this game.
Yep.
But I feel like it can go either way. It depends on what guys on the offense do for the Vikings, like Hawkinson and Addison and those guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, quickly before we move on, they, even without Jefferson and Osborne being banged up and Madison not having a good year, Josh Dobbs is building such a great connection with Jordan Addison.
Yep.
And TJ Hawkinson is still showing why he's one of the best tight ends, period, in the National Football League. So their offense is so good with those two guys alone. And the offensive line has given him a lot of protection too. So look, I mean, again, the offense has been great. And if Josh Dobbs keeps creating success, then there's no reason why they're not there is no reason for them to lose this game.
No, 100%.
But Denver will give them a good matchup.
100% agree. We move into a game that is really, really exciting to me. Monday Night Football. We got Eagles Chiefs. What do you got on this?
Super Bowl rematch, and we finally have a good Monday Night Football game. Jason, this one's going to be intriguing. I'll be honest with you. I'm going with Philly. I'm going with the Eagles. And I'm going with the Eagles because I've seen more promise from them offensively throughout the year. Now, guaranteed their one loss was a botch to New York. The Jets, of course. But the way they bounced back at home versus Miami was beyond impressive.
Yes.
And since then, they beat Dallas. They have some pretty big wins in general. They're playing very strong. Kansas City lost to this Denver team that's been on a roll recently. And Pat Mahomes has still been kind of shaky. And Travis Kelce's playing good. But again, the problem for Kansas City is that they don't have a star one receiver.
Yeah.
They don't have a WR1. And that's been hurting them all year long.
The fact that it's becoming Rice is not a good thing.
Well, that Rice for sure is not Jerry Rice. I'll tell you that much for sure. And on top of that, look, it's just been ugly for Kansas City offensively. Now, their defense has been all right, but their defense has also struggled in big moments. When you have a solid Eagles offense with Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift, those 5 guys alone, on top of a strong offensive line, that Chiefs defense is going to struggle. And Sure, they're at home, but Philadelphia's been a really good road team this year, period. And on top
100%.
of that, I think they're going to find a way to win. I think the Eagles win. And honestly, look, say what you want about the Super Bowl and what have you. I thought Philadelphia should have won the championship last year. I think they're going to beat KC to prove why they should have won that title 1 year ago. So give me Philly. It's going to be a great Monday game. And regardless of the final score, maybe it's a 10-point, 7-point, 3-point game. Maybe Philly blows them out. Who knows? I doubt they'll blow them out. But let's not forget that Detroit went into Kansas City on opening night and stole a win.
Yeah,
Why can't Philly do the same exact thing? I
100%.
think they will.
Yeah, look, I don't like either of these teams, especially as a Giants fan. With the Chiefs, I'm worried about this becoming a Tom Brady situation where he just dominates the league with 6, 7 Super Bowls or
Yeah.
something like that. Um, but I am going Eagles as much as I do prefer the Chiefs out of the two teams. I just think the Eagles overall have looked more impressive. The Chiefs, despite being 7-2, their offense has looked very flat at times.
Oh yeah.
So, I just overall think the Eagles' offense has looked much better, and that says a lot because this year hasn't even been an amazing year for Jalen Hurts, in my
Yeah.
opinion. He's struggled
No,
at times as
no.
well.
He has struggled a lot, and you saw more of that towards the beginning of the season. But that loss to the Jets really woke him up. And
Yep,
ever since that loss to the Jets, he's playing really good. And he's really fixed up his mistakes.
yep,
And on top of that, he's gotten a lot more support in the run game, not just with his legs and the tush push, but DeAndre Swift has gotten more involved too.
yep,
So Jalen Hurts is playing a lot better, and he's playing like the quarterback we saw last season. So
100%.
that's been the big difference maker. So yeah, I mean, with those things in mind, fly, Eagles, fly.
I agree. Eagles
For
are going to
sure.
win this game, and the Chiefs are going to have to shake it off. Um,
I just got that. That's pretty
and
good.
yeah, look, I'll say it now. I just overall, I'm more impressed with the Eagles. Um, but hey, this is a good week 11 of football. Um, look, there's some really good games in there. There's some games that aren't so great. But the good thing about this week is we're heading towards the point of the season where a lot of these games for these teams have huge implications on staying alive in a playoff race. The Bills desperately need a win. Vikings need a win to continue their push.
Mhm.
Um, if the Chiefs lose, suddenly the Raiders are close to them. Like, you know, the Texans are trying to make the push. The Jaguars are trying to stay in that first place spot. Chargers are trying to bounce back into it.
Mhm.
Dolphins trying to hold first place. Bengals, Ravens both trying to battle there. So this week, Steelers, Browns trying to keep themselves in the mix. Some big, big games. Seahawks and Niners battling for the first place spot. So big playoff implications. This is where it gets really exciting. Um, you know, this might actually be the closest towards the end of the season you've seen a playoff race in a while, with there being so many teams in it still. So it's an exciting week 11 of football, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching our week 11 NFL predictions, guys. If you are new here, drop a sub. If you liked the video, leave a like. Drop a comment as well with you guys' predictions for the week. Would love to hear what you guys think for the games. And as usual, we'll be back next Thursday for our week 12 predictions. So we're going to be doing this for the remainder of the season. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out, YouTube.